Experiencing low motivation on a regular basis is totally normal. Low motivation to go to the gym, low motivation to eat healthy food and not overeat junk food, low motivation to go grocery shopping instead of just ordering takeouts, low motivation to just do hard things in life in general, because doing hard things is not easy. So your body will just kind of naturally gravitate to doing the easy thing, which is typically not requiring high levels of motivation. So that little voice in your head that's always telling you to take it easy is kind of always lurking around the corner. But here's the kicker. The more that you push through and conquer those tough moments, the happier and better your life becomes. The more hard things that you do in your life, the better your life becomes. So in this episode, we're going to dive in and discover how to boost your motivation and ensure that you don't get held back by periods of low motivation. So I'd love to jump in and just drop this question on you, Daphne. Has there ever been a time in your life when you've really struggled with staying motivated?
Wow, that's a big question. um, I think it depends on what the motivation is towards, if that makes sense. So, if we're talking about mainly health, fitness, I would say late 30s was a little bit of lacking motivation. It took a little bit of a wake up call in order to remotivate me. If you're talking career, I've never lacked motivation there. I mean, it's always been, what am I going to do next? Um, yeah.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to start with that is because you are, from my perspective and the perspective of most people, or everyone I know who knows you, you're just an individual with very kind of high levels of drive, motivation, insert kind of whatever word you want. So, yeah, if we dial in on the kind of health and fitness aspect that you just talked about, what did you learn from that experience of maybe struggling through a lower period of motivation?
I think the first thing I learned was that I needed someone to hold me accountable. So getting a coach was very helpful, or having someone who I had to show up for and actually pretend that I had done what I was supposed to do. Um, I think the other thing was having community was helpful, and that just people to share experience with, to re-energize what had been lost. And then the other thing what I would say was having a goal or having a destination to help keep me moving forward while the motivation became more discipline.
Yeah, those are some great ways to bring kind of your motivation back. We'll be talking about that in a little bit more detail in this episode. But yeah, if I just kind of talk from my personal experience, 2023 was definitely kind of a lower point in terms of my fitness journey. It was a
Mhm.
little bit of a rough patch. And not for any particular reason. I just wasn't super highly motivated to train. Kind of just was going through the motions, wasn't really interested in training on a regular basis. So I wasn't training consistently. I averaged just over 2 times a week for 2023, which for me is very little training.
Mhm.
That's far below where I've averaged kind of over the last decade. And I also dropped down to 170 pounds at one point last year, which was also kind of a low point for my for me. I want to maintain a higher amount of uh, kind of body mass, and I want to have more muscle. Um, of much motivation to train. I was just kind of going through the motions when I did train, and I just started feeling weaker. I'm not training consistently. I'm losing muscle mass, and it's not that I wasn't in like a bad place mentally about
Mhm.
it. It was just like, meh, just that kind of define my year for 2023 in terms of training. But more than anything, I just didn't have the right kind of structure with my training routine as well. I wasn't following any training plan, and I didn't really have the right environment for really being consistent with my training. But since February of this year, 2024, I have really been kind of cruising. I've been crushing it, and I'm up to 195 pounds now, and I feel really strong, feel really fit, kind of at a pretty much across the board with all my lifts. I'm really at kind of my peak strength right now. And this reignition of my fitness journey has reminded me what it takes to stay consistent with training, what it takes to be consistent with your fitness and your health. So in this episode, I want to share kind of the top 5 things that really helped me to get back on track with my fitness journey and kind of build that drive back. And my goal is that it will help you in your journey as well. So the first thing, kind of the first method to get your drive back is to change your environment. You need an environment that inspires you, an environment that gives you energy. And it's really no coincidence that I got back on track with my fitness in February, because that's when I moved to Dallas. So I moved from Oklahoma City to Dallas, and I found an awesome gym in Dallas. And it's Destination Dallas in Allen, Texas. If any of you want to check that out, there are lots of pro bodybuilders who train there. And I actually don't think I told you this, but I ran into, a few days after we were talking about Branch Warren, who trains at this gym, I actually ran into him.
No way.
And yeah, I saw him at the gym after my workout. But anyways, there's a lot of pro bodybuilders there, a lot of really big guys. And yeah, I mean, they're not natural, but they still train with intensity. And it's that kind of vibe. It's a good environment for pushing yourself. And they have a huge mural on one side of the gym wall that says "No excuses" in massive capital letters. And that's just kind of the environment of that gym. Now, I had a small home gym in Oklahoma City when I was living with my brother Anders. We had a small home gym in the garage. And I kind of found that wasn't a great setup for me. So I spend all my time at home anyways. I work from home and I do everything else at home. So, and I'm basically just kind of a homebody. So if I don't go somewhere to train, I basically spend all my hours
24/7 at home.
Basically spend all my time at home.
Yeah.
Other than going for some walks or bike rides or something in the evenings. And I think that kind of contributed to just not feeling super inspired. And I also had there was a gym that I went to in Oklahoma City that was a little bit better than working out in the garage, at least for me. But it didn't really have any kind of energy to it. It was a little bit, it was actually this gym in like kind of a strip mall. And it was just kind of like, it was a gym and like a small local gym. And that was kind of that. There wasn't kind of any real energy that I felt there. And I really like feeling, I mean, you said this when you went to Destination Dallas, the gym. You said you felt like a kid in a candy store.
I did.
That's how I like to feel when I go into a gym. I want to feel like there's energy there. There's tons of cool equipment that I can test out. And the gym that I went to in Oklahoma City was just kind of like totally mediocre. And it didn't have a bunch of different training equipment. And it seemed like, especially with some of the leg equipment, there were always people like kind of waiting for equipment. It wasn't
suboptimal.
Yeah, it was a little too small, a little too cramped, and the people were really nice. Again, it just didn't really have the right vibe for me. And also another important point is that even though I wasn't really in what I would consider my peak physical shape and fitness, there weren't that many people who were in better shape than I was. And in my opinion, this is totally me, but if you get to the point where you are one of the most fit people in your gym, that's a good time to change and get into a new environment. And that's because I really strongly believe in the idea of surrounding yourself with people who have accomplished more than you've accomplished in a particular area that you want to grow and improve in. So if I want to get better in my health and fitness, and I surround myself with people who do not have a kind of higher level of fitness, or whether that's more muscle mass, or they're stronger than me, or they can run a mile faster than me, whatever my goals are, if I don't surround myself with people who kind of exemplify who I want to be, then I'm going to, at least for me, and everyone's a little different, but at least for me, I don't feel pulled towards my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And when I surround myself with people who are kind of farther down the path than I am, I feel like I'm being
Yep.
pulled from that kind of collective group of people. So I am most inspired in my fitness journey when I'm not one of the top kind of guys in the gym when it comes to my fitness and my strength. So that was a huge game changer for me. And that's why I wanted to list it as method number one for getting your drive back. Just being sure that you are in the right environment. And that will maybe look totally different for you than it does for me. But surrounding yourself in the right environments and place that has kind of the right energy, the right vibe, and ideally you're surrounded by people who really inspire you, and even people who can maybe give you some tips and help cut the learning curve. So I'd love to hear from you. How much does your environment affect you?
I would agree with you. I think it's significant. I mean, right now, similar to you, I train in my apartment building, but part of the lure of that is I'm by myself, which I do love because no one else is up at the time I'm training. But I also, I mean, there's a Gold's Gym that opened across the street from me. I love going in there and just feeling the energy. You see people, when you see people doing hard things, it makes you think, oh, I want to do that too. So I do think environment is important. And I think it can be motivating.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So what, I guess you just kind of touched on it, but what do you really look for in a gym? That kind of some more intensity, more of the kind of people who are in there just getting it done.
I want to feel, and you use the word energy. I want to feel an energy. I mean, there has to be a little bit of a hum where people they're hitting it hard. They're not there just to sit on the bench and be on their phone for 5 minutes at a time. That's not my gym. I want where there's sweat flowing, there's people working hard, but also people who are willing to help you out if you need help. So a friendly environment, but an environment where people are trying to work hard.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, so that's method number one. Method number two is to create clear, powerful goals that make you feel inspired and excited for the future. So you touched on this at the beginning, having kind of clear goals. And that's really important for three main reasons in my point of view. So one, direction. Goals provide a clear direction and purpose, helping you to stay focused and motivated. Two, excitement. Well-defined, powerful goals create a sense of excitement and anticipation for the future. And then the third reason is for accountability. So clear goals make it easier to track your progress and hold yourself accountable as a result. So I'm a really big believer that you need to have a clear target if you want to be successful. If you don't have kind of a clear goal in mind, you don't have a clear destination, as the saying goes, any road will take you there. And there are probably lots of roads you don't want to go down. So your goals have to be meaningful. Don't set tiny little baby goals. These goals need to really fire you up. And I also think they should freak you out in kind of like an excited way. And it's also really important to not set ambiguous goals like I want to lose weight or I want to be wealthy or whatever the goal is. You need to set really clear, crystal goals. So as some examples, if we're talking about your career, you could say something like, I will earn a promotion to team leader or manager within the next 12 months by completing professional development courses, leading successful projects, whatever that looks like for the path for you. making it really clear, like this is a timeline, this is what I want to accomplish, and this is how I'm going to do it. That's a great way of structuring a goal. Another one, a health goal. I want to run a marathon in 6 months by following a structured training plan and maintaining a balanced diet. A professional growth goal. I want to read 12 books in the next year to broaden my knowledge and improve my critical thinking skills. So we could go on and on. I love the goal setting process, and you really want to take some time for this, because if you set the wrong goal, then you're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of hard efforts focusing on the wrong direction. So be sure to take time, set the right goals that are really clear and actionable. We've done quite a few episodes on setting clear goals, so you can scroll back through our episodes and check some of those out if you would like some more concrete direction. But in short, you kind of want to follow the SMART methodology when it comes to setting goals. I don't use the exact acronym SMART, but basically kind of use those main structural components. So you want to set goals that are ambitious. So goals that actually push you, goals that kind of freak you out a little bit. You also want to set goals that are really specific. So you need to get super clear and specific. You also need to make sure that your goals are achievable. So you don't want to say, if you've got a lot of weight to lose, you don't want to say, I want to lose 50 pounds in the next 2 months. That would be an example of a goal that's not achievable, or certainly not achievable in any kind of healthy way. So that's another key component. And then measurable. You want to make sure that you can actually measure your progress toward accomplishing a goal. So that basically across the board means adding a number. So adding something that you can actually track. It's either a number that you're tracking, or it's a clear yes or no, I did this or I didn't do this in this time frame. It needs to be measurable, and ideally it can be broken down into smaller components. So let's say you've got a goal of losing 20 pounds. You can very clearly track that over time, and you can divide the amount of the kind of duration of time that you've given yourself for that goal. Let's say it's 6 months. You can say, I'm going to divide 20 by 6, and that's how much weight I'm going to be losing, or that's kind of the target to stay on track that I want to lose on a monthly basis. And then the last thing is you want to be sure that has a clear deadline. So you really want to be sure that there's a clear deadline that you're holding yourself to. So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, which is a goal that lots of people may have, but is not specific, measurable, or bound by a clear deadline, you want to instead create a goal that says something like, I will lose 15 pounds of body fat in the next 90 days by tracking my nutrition and focusing on resistance training. Now, I decided back in March of this year that I was going to spend 90 days building as much muscle as possible. And I had the goal of putting on 10 pounds, not 10 pounds of muscle, but 10 pounds total in that 90-day period of total mass. And I ended up putting on over 10 pounds of muscle mass in that time by training consistently and also training really hard, tracking my nutrition really carefully. That's actually the first time that I've actually tracked my nutrition really purposefully through a bulking phase. That's not something that I've done historically. Like maybe I've tracked protein on a regular basis and just kind of intuitively tried to maintain a surplus, and to one extent or another kind of did achieve that. But this was a highly structured period where I was really focusing on getting as much out of this time as I could. Now, quick little caveat, most of that weight was due to the fact that I started taking creatine again, and also due to the fact that I have previously had more muscle. So I think there's a huge muscle memory component in that, but still, I feel like I crushed the 90-day bulk because I had a crystal clear goal. I had lots of accountability. I knew exactly what I wanted to accomplish. I had a really clear understanding of where I was heading, and it was totally aligned with who I wanted to become within my kind of health and fitness journey. So do you have anything that you'd like to add in terms of setting goals? And also, I'd love to hear, what is your main fitness goal currently?
So I agree with you. I think it's very important to set goals, and even some goals that are kind of BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. And I do think it's important to set the right goals. I agree with everything you said around the importance of not meandering aimlessly, but actually getting toward a destination and being able to measure how you're making progress toward the destination. The I've been thinking about the goal question, and I I probably have a macro goal of being the healthiest me ever. And I know that sounds ambiguous, but I define it as being a little better every day. And whether it's stronger, faster, um, but to me, I want to continue to improve. And I use small milestone events in order to help accelerate that. So, prior to the Tough Mudder, I have a 10 miler coming up. Getting ready to run the 10 miler, I think, is a great goal. And usually in there, I'll set other small goals. Well, actually, I did throw in another race. I have a 4th of July race that I just spontaneously decided I want to go run. So I set micro goals on a path toward a bigger goal. But my broader goal is to always continue to improve on who I am.
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of North Star in just kind of across the board in all areas of your life. And yeah, I think working to always get a little better every day, every week, every month, every year is kind of a really good kind of central theme for your life.
Yeah.
And that's yeah.
But it's not always specific and measurable, but these other punctuated events are specific and measurable milestones that I want to achieve progress towards that help me along a longer journey.
Yeah, when it comes to my health and fitness journey, I've gone through periods of having clear goals and not having clear goals, and having clear goals definitely helps, as I just covered with
Mm-hmm.
the kind of the bulking journey. I also like mixing it up and focusing on different things. So if I am toward the kind of upper end of my kind of like fitness, and so like I'm not going to be able to gain like a ton more muscle or a ton more strength. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But I can kind of maintain where I'm at now and then mix in other things like,
Right.
well, maybe I got another Ironman on the
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the distant future, or jumping in and doing, yeah, something like the Tough Mudder. Do you actually want to share what we're doing for that? It'll be fun.
So the coaching team is going to be participating as a team in a Tough Mudder in Pennsylvania in September. Our Tough Mudder is going to be a 10-mile event, and it will involve probably 20 obstacles. And our goal is to do this as a team. So we're going to help each other along the way. It'll be definitely probably about a good 4 hours, if not maybe a little bit more, depending on the weather. But it's a good way to challenge ourselves, but it's also a good way to learn how to work together as a team. So I'm excited, scared, but excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Well, you're actually running consistently and I'm not. So I don't think you have anything to be scared about.
The
I was
ice
telling
bath,
Daphne, what's that?
the ice, what do they call it?
Oh, yeah, ice plunge or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll have that, but if they do,
I hope not.
yeah. But I think you'll be totally fine during the run parts. Maybe an ice plunge isn't going to be so nice, but you'll be good on it. All right, so setting clear goals is the second method to getting your drive back and building motivation. The third method is to commit to yourself and share that commitment with others publicly. So this means creating massive accountability. Now, when I decided in March that I wanted to build muscle and go on this 90-day bulking journey, I decided to document that journey on YouTube for two main reasons. So the first reason is that I really want to show to people that you can be super healthy and fit as a vegan and do that with data. I know this is something that lots of people have proven. Obviously, there's no impediment to gaining muscle on a vegan diet, but I want to do that with data. So doing DEXA scans in particular to prove what I've done in a particular time frame. So that was the first component. I just wanted to definitively prove that yes, you can gain lots of muscle as a vegan. The second reason is that I just wanted to hold myself accountable. So I wanted to put myself out there and say, I am doing this. This is the goal. This is what I'm aiming to accomplish. and all of you can watch and ensure that I actually follow through and get that done. So when you share your goal with a couple people or tens of thousands of people, that's a really good way to create massive
It
accountability.
is.
So I am just such a big proponent of telling people about your goals and putting yourself out there and generating as much accountability as possible. I think that is a hugely underutilized tool in people's health and fitness journeys. And I think if more people did that, then more people would accomplish their goals. So, how do you create accountability?
How do I create accountability? Well, there's probably the public way I create accountability is either planning an event or an activity or milestone with other people, because I'm never going to be the person that doesn't show up or doesn't or that comes unprepared. So if we're going to go out and run 10 miles, I'm going to be ready to do the Army 10 miler. So that's one way, signing up for races, signing up for events, signing up for shows and showing up. The occasionally I've done the broader public accountability where I've shared either in my consistency post or on Instagram. I've never done a YouTube video, but just putting it out there that I'm trying to achieve something, which then makes me feel accountable to executing on it. So that's a little bit of public accountability. I think the personal accountability is me taking stock of, I'm a big visual, a list kind of person. So if I have a goal that I'm setting out there, I may put something on my refrigerator, put something on the inside of my door, put something on my phone, on my screensaver that reminds me that this is where you're going.
Mm.
So when those days when motivation's lower, I can look at something and say, "Oh, dang, I really got to get up and do that."
Yeah, those are some great additional ways of creating accountability, and yeah, I think it's really powerful to just sign up for a race, sign up for an event, and because that's a way to kind of lock yourself
Yeah,
in and give you that crystal clear deadline
got to
and
do.
say, hey, if I don't prepare by this date, then I'm going to struggle.
I was going to say it's going to be painful.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty unpleasant. So I think that's a great way. And also, yeah, having those constant reminders. That's one reason that I've always really loved vision boarding. I think that it is so powerful to kind of clearly see some kind of representation of your goals and where you want to end up. So I think that's a great method as well. And you mentioned consistency posts. So for any of our clients listening, the main reason that we do consistency posts in the Vegan Superhero Academy, so everyone we have the option for clients to be posting their consistency posts. So they're talking about nutrition wins, training wins. They do a gratitude statement. So the power of a consistency post is that you are sharing this with a group of other people and they are kind of tracking your fitness journey over time. And I think that's really powerful. And I find a ton of value in the consistency posts, and I created it years ago and I still use it to this day because I find it to be so valuable. And there are many ways that you can create accountability in your life. So you can tell your friends and family members, you can post on social media, you can join a community of like-minded people who will hold you accountable and cheer you on along the way. There are so many different ways that you can create accountability in your life. And generally speaking, the more accountability you have, the better. That's method number 3. Method number 4 is to structure your day for health and fitness success.
Yep.
So here's a quote that I've always loved. Show me your priorities and I'll show you your future. Our priorities and the actions that we take based on them really shape the direction of our lives. So the time that you spend every single day focusing on your health and fitness is what will ultimately determine how your body looks and feels. So how do you actually structure your day? How much time, you have to be honest with yourself here. How much time do you honestly spend scrolling on your phone or watching Netflix, watching YouTube, being on TikTok? how much time do you just kind of mindlessly waste on a daily and even weekly basis? Most of us, just by the numbers, spend hours doing that on a daily basis. And most of us are also overweight, out of shape, and not where we want to be in our health and fitness journey. So I don't see how those two can coexist. I wouldn't want those two things to coexist in my life. And I'm not saying you should never watch Netflix or YouTube or anything like that. I do it. I think it's totally fine. But do that in moderation. Also make sure that that is not becoming your excuse for kind of saying, oh, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to go to the grocery store and buy healthy foods. I don't have time to prepare healthy meals. If we followed you around for the entire day, I think we'd probably find time. And the reason that this is so important is your priorities, your habits, they dictate your life. And if you aren't happy with where you are right now in a certain area of your life, then there's a good chance that improving your habits and daily structure is the solution. In fact, I would go so far as to say that is a solution, and that's what you really need to work on implementing in your life. So for me, I have found that I need to work out first thing in the morning. I've tried working out afternoons. I've tried working out evenings. Historically, there have been periods where I've been relatively consistent doing both of those things, but the morning is the only time that has seemed to work really well for me over a long period of time, and it also really integrates best with my schedule. Now, I also push myself really hard in the gym, so I don't like just going through the motions. And I'm a really big proponent of the idea of eating the frog, which I believe is a term that Brian Tracy coined. Maybe it was coined before him, but I think it was Brian Tracy who wrote a book on this. And it's all about tackling. So what does eating the frog mean? I know it's not a vegan phrase, but what's it actually mean? It means tackling the most challenging task first thing in the morning.
Eat the jalapeno.
So eat the jalapeno. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, well, since this phrase isn't vegan, I was thinking about like a new vegan version of this phrase that we could coin. Eating the jalapeno, that could work. I came up with harvesting the kale. So just like the freshest, most nutrient-packed kale is picked early in the morning, tackling your toughest jobs, tackling your toughest habits right away really sets you up for a productive and successful day. So by harvesting the kale every morning, you'll feel accomplished, you feel energized, you feel ready to take on anything that comes your way, just like you feel kind of when you actually eat kale. So it can make you feel really healthy, make you feel ready to go. It's kind of like something to feel accomplished and make you feel energized. So when I start my day with getting to the gym and lifting, especially if it's a leg workout like heavy squats, where it is really difficult, that is really mentally challenging for me, I can be pretty confident that nothing in my day is going to be more challenging than that. Then I can go crush work until early evening and then take a few hours to chill before bed. And I have built a schedule that's aligned with my goals. I have built a schedule that prioritizes my health and fitness. And that is how I harvest the kale or eat the jalapeno or insert whatever vegan version of eat the frog you want. But yeah, I think it's so important because ultimately your habits, the priorities that you have in your daily schedule really is going to determine ultimately where you end up in your health and fitness or any other area of your life. So how do you harvest the kale? How do you eat the jalapeno? But you like eating jalapenos, so that's not punishment for you. Harvesting the kale, you're going out doing back-breaking labor, harvesting kale every morning.
That sounds hard work.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the kale was best harvested in the morning, but
yeah, I actually learned that in researching for this episode.
Interesting. So Leif, I do something similar to you, which is first, I prioritize my workouts in the morning. It's the only time of day I can control. And that it's been a long-standing habit where I get up, I go to the gym, and that's just who I am now. And nothing except maybe an early plane flight will disrupt that. So if I don't invest that time in me in the morning, it won't happen. It's just hard to control, the downstream ripples of everything that happens in the day. But I feel and think so much better when I work out in the morning. And I think I'm a better person when I work out in the morning. So that's just become who I am. Um, there's so much time that we waste in our day that we don't realize. And, it's not to say, I don't want to say it again, Netflix is not wasted time, social media is not wasted time. But when I prioritize on the weekends, for example, I can meal prep and I can talk to friends at the same time, or I can meal prep and I can watch a YouTube video, or, um, listening to podcast. I'll, my routine workout, come into the house, I turn on podcast, I start prepping my meals for the day. It's just very structured. And that structure helps create consistency and success.
Yeah, I love the phrase discipline creates freedom because I genuinely feel that way. The more disciplined I am, the more free I
Yeah.
feel. Free from feeling like I'm not doing what I need to be doing to accomplish my goals, and just free in general to know that I am on the right track to accomplishing what I want to accomplish. So
And it alleviates decision fatigue sometimes.
yeah.
I don't have to decide this or this. I just know that's the next step.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think that's probably actually the number one driver behind that phrase, discipline creates freedom. I heard on a podcast recently, this guy, I even forget who it was, but I listen to lots of podcasts. And he said a quote that stuck out to me. He said, I have never met an unsuccessful person who goes to the gym first thing in the morning.
Interesting.
And I thought, yeah, that's pretty well said. I think just starting, and I think the point there, not that you need to go to the gym, but just doing something that's aligned with your personal goals. And I think in general, focusing on your health first thing in the morning is a really great recipe because it sets the tone for the rest of your day. Not only do you carry throughout the rest of your day feeling really good, feeling energized, you've gotten a workout in, you feel accomplished, you start the day with a win, but you are also building the habit of consistency in your health and fitness journey and making sure that you're staying consistent with the main priority, which really at the end of the day should be your health and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said before on the podcast, understandably, lots of people maybe would say that, hey, my family is my number one priority, my kids are my number one priority, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you are not spending that time to ensure that you are in a good place, it's going to be difficult to really show up powerfully to your loved ones. So, all right, that is the fourth method to build your drive back, really being sure that you're structuring your day for health and fitness success. And in general, if you haven't given a serious attempt to get on more of an early schedule, then I recommend that you do that. And I know everybody is on a little bit of a different schedule. Maybe you have to get your kids ready for school in the morning, or you need to work a little earlier, or there are other commitments that you have in the morning. So it doesn't need to be in the morning, but also you can always get up earlier as well. So if you structure your evening routine to set your morning up for success and carve out some additional time to focus on your health and fitness, that can be a really great path as well. All right, method number 5 is to create your list of non-negotiables. So non-negotiables are the essential tasks, the values, the habits that you commit to every day, no matter what. And they really serve as the foundation for your routine and help you to maintain consistency even when motivation wanes. So this is kind of building on the last method that we just discussed. So set up your schedule for success and now really hone in your list of non-negotiables. So here's some of my health and fitness non-negotiables. And then if you have anything to add, please feel free to jump in. I'd love to hear yours. So I train at least 4 times per week, period. That's one example. I plan my on the go nutrition ahead of time. So, for
Mhm.
example, I pack all of my nutrition for a trip, or at least as much of my nutrition as I can pack for a trip. One thing that I always prioritize when I'm going on kind of a longer trip is protein. So, I make sure that I'm bringing some kind of main protein sources because, generally speaking, you can find tons of plant-based foods pretty much wherever you travel, but it doesn't always include the protein source component is the more challenging one to find. So that's another list of that's another example of a non-negotiable. I'm always uh, planning my on-the-go nutrition ahead of time. Another one, this one's a little weird, but I tape my mouth shut every single night so I don't breathe through my mouth. I've actually been doing this for, I don't know exactly when I started. It's somewhere around 2 years. And I've done that. I think I missed maybe one day when I was traveling and I didn't have tape. And then I got tape for the following night. And I started doing that ever since I read the book Breathe. And I forgetting the author's name now, but it was a really
James Nestor.
insightful. Yeah, thank you. It was a really insightful book. I learned a ton. And the number one takeaway that I got from that is tape your mouth shut. Don't be a mouth breather. Breathe through your nose. You can read the whole book if you want more information on that. Another non-negotiable, I only drink highly purified filtered water. That's what I do across the board all the time. There are so many just kind of contaminants in normal water that most people don't think about, just normal tap water. And it depends on where you live. It highly depends on where you live, but that's something just in general that I really work to abide by. Another list on my non-negotiables for health and fitness would be 80% plus of my calories come in the form of minimally processed whole foods. That's something that I really prioritize. Another one, I rarely eat anything with added sugar. That is very rare. And I guess that's kind of in part because I'm definitely more of a savory person than a sweet
Mhm.
person. So don't ask me about added salt. But as far as sugar goes, looking pretty good there. Another one, I do not drink alcohol. I maybe have had one drink in the past 18 months or so, and I just do not drink. I don't think it really serves any benefit and something you kind of tend to always regret. Another one, I take my supplements every single day. So I've been most recently, my supplementation protocol has evolved over time. But right now I'm taking a multivitamin. I'm taking the omega-3s EPA and DHA. I'm taking that in a preformed kind of EPA DHA supplement. I've also got vitamin D in my lineup, and I have a spice packet as well. That spice packet, I've talked about this many times on our YouTube channel, and I've mentioned it a few times in the podcast, but this is a spice packet that Dr. Grecker uses and
Mhm.
recommends. So he puts in there, he's got amla, turmeric, black cumin seed powder, and also um, long pepper powder or piperlongumine.
Mhm.
And I also have mushroom powder that I include in that spice packet as well. But Dr. Greger doesn't do that because he loves mushrooms and he eats them all the time, and I can't stand them. So I put them in a spice packet. So that's what my spice packet looks like. And then I also have, on a daily basis, I have flaxseed, I have wheat germ, and I also have a small piece of kombu. So I treat these as kind of food as supplements, and that works really well. So flaxseed has some ALA in it, omega-3 ALA, and then kombu for iodine. So those are some examples of my non-negotiables in health and fitness. And actually, I am mostly intuitive in my approach to nutrition. And depending on kind of my exact training phase, I tend to be pretty intuitive with my training as well. What builds the structure, so I'm not necessarily tracking everything in detail or following a highly structured plan, but what keeps me on track, I kind of view it as the like bumpers on like a bowling
Uh-huh.
was it bowling alley,
Yep.
bowling lane.
Well,
Yeah, kind of
the
those
lanes.
bumpers
Yeah.
that you put up when you're 4 years old or 32, depending on who you are. Kind of keeps you on track, and that's how I view this list of non-negotiables. So that's just a handful of them. Do you have any non-negotiables that come to mind?
The only other ones I can think No, I think your list was exhaustive. Um, I used to have, I'm trying to get back to a sleep non negotiable because that should be fixed in my mind because it ties into my wake up time to get to the gym. But otherwise, no.
That's a good point. There are other ones on here that I honestly wanted to add, but couldn't exactly add in good conscience, like a
Yes.
sleep sleep one, because I that is presently not a non-negotiable
It,
for me,
no.
which is not how I want it to be. But that's also we're not robots, so I think that's also it's important to give yourself grace and understand you don't need to be doing everything totally right, but doing your best to set a list of non-negotiables, and then at the same time also not beating yourself up when you get a little bit off
Correct.
track, especially when, I mean, life happens, travel happens. There are lots of things that can come up that can interfere with the list of non negotiables, but then get right back on track. So, for everyone, your list of non negotiables is going to maybe look a little bit different, but it's important to ensure that you have a clear list of non negotiables. So we've talked about non-negotiables through the lens of health and fitness, but you can also have non-negotiables in every area of your life, and that can help keep you on track with your goals if you are setting goals outside of health and fitness,
Mm-hmm.
which you very much should. So one example of this that I wanted to share is that I am always learning. You kind of touched on this earlier. I'm meal prepping and I'm watching a YouTube video, or I'm listening to a podcast on a walk. Every single day, I listen to an educational podcast. I listen to a YouTube video and or an audiobook. And I also read a physical book on Kindle every evening.
Mm-hmm.
Most days I do, basically every day I do at least two of those. And I often do three. And some days I even do four of those. So I'm just always learning. And whenever I'm in the car or I'm on a walk or I'm doing anything where I'm just kind of doing it solo, I'll constantly be synthesizing information and trying to learn. So that's another example. And just going through and creating a list of non-negotiables, it really can serve as those bumpers to
Yeah.
really keep you on track with your goals. And also, as I touched on, setting non negotiables is really great. I highly, highly recommend it, but aim for consistency rather than perfection.
Yeah.
So, missing a day isn't failure. Getting back on track is going to be key. So, give yourself some grace, as I said. That's really important. But also do your best to set the clear non negotiables and structure your day, structure your life, structure your priorities in a way where you're going to be able to stick with that more days than not. So, when it comes to staying consistent with your training program, whatever that looks like, I have found the 10-minute commitment to be a really valuable tool. So, use the 10-minute commitment when you don't feel like it. And this is a 10-minute commitment. So, every single time you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to go to the gym, you don't want to go outside for a walk or anything like that, use a 10-minute commitment. So you get ready, get out the door, give yourself 10 minutes. And if you're doing the activity for 10 minutes and you decide at the end of those 10 minutes that you no longer want to do the activity, you can just stop and chalk that up to a win and say, hey, I was building the muscle of consistency and and you can feel really good about that. And you should feel really good about that. But this just helps you to not feel like it's all or nothing, like you need to do everything perfectly to plan, or else just what's the point and not take any action. So, and you can use if you want to make the 5 minute commitment or 7 minute, whatever, it doesn't really matter. The point is just committing to some shorter time frame and saying, I'm going to get out and do this amount of time. And then if I don't feel like it, if I don't feel like continuing after that point, then I won't. I've used this a lot, and more often than not, pretty much all the time, actually, for me, I start feeling great. I start
Yeah.
getting more into it. The blood starts flowing, dopamine starts rushing through my body, and I start feeling like continuing. So I found that to be a really helpful tool. What do you do when you don't feel like it?
So a couple of years ago, I set a goal of I have to get out the house and walk at least 5 minutes a day. And so now I have an app that I can keep track of. And so it's become my accountability because I like to hear the little do do do.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do is I know I have to check off the box in my app. Um, the other thing, the other thing, Leif, is I just say, just go do it. Um, the, I mean, there's, I don't know how to articulate it better than to just tell myself, okay, here's your two alternatives. You cannot do it. Here's what'll happen. You can do it. Here's what'll happen. Okay, let's just go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I'll feel that when I wake up and I don't feel like I'm a little tired, didn't feel like I got the best night's sleep, and I know I'm not going to fall back asleep. So I just say, hey, all right, you don't want to go do this, but before I even kind of think about it more, I'm lacing up my shoes, getting my water bottles ready,
Yep.
getting in the car, starting to drive. Okay, we're doing this. And you just tell your mind,
You've
or
got
you tell your
momentum.
body, this is all right, start walking. We're doing this.
Yep.
Let's get rolling.
And the 5-minute rule works but 9 times out of 10, once you hit that, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. And even if you have to change the specific plan for that day, you don't change the bigger plan. So maybe we're going to go for a 5-mile run. You cut it down to a 3-mile. That's okay. You still ran.
Yeah. And also, when you were talking about the app that you're using to track your walking, it reminded me of Duolingo. So I'm studying Norwegian right now. I'm on like day 170 something, and it gamifies the whole process. And yeah, I want to see like, okay, we added one day to your streak. I want to see the little owl like celebrating and being happy. The owl, I don't know, is his name Duo? I think so. I'm not sure. Anyways, the little cute owl, he'll get angry at me once we get to like 8 p.m., 10 p.m. He gets pissed at 10 p.m.
He's jumping up and down.
Oh, he looks like he wants to hurt me. He's got like, yeah, the app gets like all red and he's like scowling at me. Yeah, I'll have to show you it. But I don't know, maybe is that just my app? Do other people experience that in Duolingo? Or I got the special like Kiki on the ass app. Anyways, yeah, it's helpful to be able to track your consistency over time and do that in some kind of way that's going to help you stay on track. All right. Anything else that you want to add to this conversation? Any other tips that you have for getting your drive back, for continuing to build momentum? And
I love these tips. I would echo though what you said previously, which is, don't expect to be perfect. So, but the more consistent you are, the better.
Yeah, I think that's really important to keep in mind. All right, so to summarize, method number 1 is to change your environment. Method number 2 is to create clear, powerful goals that make you feel inspired and excited for the future. Method number 3 is to commit to yourself and share that commitment with others publicly, so creating massive accountability. Method number 4 is to structure your day for health and fitness success. And then method number 5 is to create your list of non-negotiables. So that's going to be a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. As you know, we don't run any ads on the podcast. We just want to bring you straight value. So the only way that we actually grow our podcast is through word of mouth. So in exchange for the value that we bring you on these episodes, we simply ask that you share every episode that you find value in with one other person who is either vegan, plant-based, or just interested in becoming more plant-based. So at the Vegan Gym, we're on a mission to help 1 million people to thrive on plants. And the only way that we're going to be able to achieve that target is with your help. So this is a team effort. We're working together to accomplish this mission. So please help us by sharing this podcast with others so that they can thrive on plants and we can make the world a healthier, more compassionate place. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.